At the edge of a small town called Haven Creek, Tennessee, a winding dirt road led to a row of old wooden houses nestled against the forest. Rusty tin roofs glimmered in the morning sunlight, amid the sounds of roosters crowing and trucks rumbling along the highway. At the very end of that road, in a faded blue cottage, the Monroe family lived quietly, surrounded by the thick, lingering heat of a southern summer. Lila and Lily Monroe, 12-year-old twins, were the heart of that modest home. They shared the same face, the same gray-blue eyes like morning mist, yet their souls flowed in opposite directions, like two branches of a river parting after a storm. Lila, the older sister, was lively, quick to smile, and had an imagination that never rested. She believed that if she sang with enough sincerity, the wind would carry her voice to the heavens, to where their father could hear it. Lily, the younger one, was quiet like the sky after rain. She spoke little, preferring to sit by the window listening to the rain tapping on the tin roof, sometimes humming a tune no one had taught her, one only her heart remembered. Their mother, Hannah Monroe, was a resilient woman whose hands were calloused from years of working at the town's laundry shop. Her husband, a farm machinery repairman, had died when the twins were only 8 in an accident on his way home. Since then, Hannah had raised them on her own. Every morning, she woke at 4, folded laundry, made peanut butter sandwiches for the girls, and rode her bicycle into town. Every evening when she returned, she would hear faint singing from the kitchen, 2 fragile voices blending together, thin but pure, like silver threads weaving through a tired room. At Haven Creek Elementary, the Monroe twins were a familiar topic of whispers, not because they were mischievous, but because they were different. Old clothes, worn-out shoes, lunchboxes with nothing but bread and a few apple slices, just enough to make the well-off kids snicker. "Hey, look at those mismatched shoes," said a blonde girl with braided hair. Probably their mom's old ones. Lila heard it and pressed her lips together. Lily kept her head down, clutching the little notebook where she wrote her song lyrics. And yet, despite the teasing, every afternoon the twins still walked home hand in hand, beneath the shade of old oak trees, softly singing to wash away the dust of cruel words. Before we continue following the extraordinary journey of Lila and Lily Monroe, if you believe that a person's true worth isn't defined by their appearance or background, but by their perseverance and passion that never fades, please like and subscribe to help us share more inspiring stories like this one with the world. And now, let's return to the story, where unexpected moments are still waiting ahead. One March afternoon, as the red glow of sunset streamed through the classroom windows, the school's loudspeaker crackled to life. Next week, Haven Creek Elementary will host Talent Day. Students who wish to perform can sign up on the bulletin board by Wednesday. The room burst into chatter. Kids argued over who would dance to TikTok songs, who would play the drums, who would sing pop hits. Lila turned to her sister, eyes shining. "Lily, let's sign up. We can sing Mom's song, 'You Raise Me Up.' She'll be so happy." Lily shook her head immediately. "No, they'll laugh at us. Let them. If we sing with our hearts, maybe someone will really listen." That night, when Hannah came home, dinner was already set on the table. Exhausted, she put down her work bag, and then she heard it. 2 voices, small and clear, rose from the shabby kitchen, intertwining like water in a cracked porcelain bowl. "You raise me up, so I can stand on mountains." Hannah froze at the doorway. She had never heard her daughter sing out loud before. For a moment she saw her late husband again, his hands stained with engine grease, holding their 2 little girls beneath the amber sky. Tears welled silently, but her heart felt warm. The next day at recess, Lila grabbed a pencil and wrote their names on the sign-up sheet posted on the bulletin board. Lila and Lily Monroe, singing. It took less than 10 minutes for giggles to ripple through the hallway. "Oh my gosh, those poor girls are singing? Maybe they'll perform a laundry commercial for their mom's shop." Lily heard it all. Her eyes blurred, but she didn't cry. She just turned to her sister and whispered, "If they laugh, do we stop?" Lila squeezed her hand gently. "No, we sing for Mom. As long as she hears us, that's enough." That afternoon, as the sun dipped behind the oak trees, 2 small figures walked along the dirt road, hand in hand, humming softly. They didn't know it yet, but from that moment on, A story the whole town would remember had just begun. On Tuesday morning, mist covered the low rooftops of Haven Creek. Along the dirt road leading to school, Lila and Lily walked side by side, their old school bags brushing against their legs. The early breeze carried the damp scent of soil and the faint fragrance of broom flowers. Neither spoke the whole way, until the bell rang to start class. In front of the principal's office, the sign-up sheet for Talent Day was neatly pinned up. The white wooden board that usually went unnoticed had become the center of attention. Groups of students crowded around, pointing and laughing. Several names were circled in red pen: Tanner, drum solo; Molly, pop dance; Jade, violin. At the very bottom, freshly written in pencil, was a wobbly line of text: Lila and Lily Monroe, singing. A brief silence, and then laughter erupted. "Those girls from the wooden house are singing? Probably one of their mom's lullabies again?" A blond boy mocked in a sing-song voice. "You raise me up." "To wash more dishes." The laughter rippled down the hallway like a wave. Lila stood a few steps away, gripping her backpack straps. Her face flushed red as she tried to stay composed. Lily stared at the floor, her fingers trembling over the small notebook where she had written the lyrics. Neither said a word. Lila only nudged her sister gently forward. "Let it go, Lily. Don't let them steal our song." But at lunch, the whispers didn't stop. Someone even pretended to record them with a phone, mimicking their voices before bursting into laughter. Lily turned away, swallowing her dry sandwich. She just wanted to go home. Home where their mother was, where no one laughed when she sang. That afternoon when they got home, Hannah was hanging laundry in the backyard. Seeing her daughter so quiet, she set the basket down and asked, "Something happen at school?" Lila pressed her lips together, forcing a smile. "Nothing, Mom. I just wanted to ask if you remember You Raise Me Up." Hannah looked surprised. "Of course I remember. That's the song your father sang to me at our wedding." "Then, could you help us practice it?" She looked at the twins for a moment. A beat of silence, then a soft, tender smile. "If you two have the courage to sing in front of everyone, I'll help with all my heart." That night, the little house glowed under the dim yellow light of an old lamp. Hannah sat on a wooden chair, tapping her foot to the rhythm. The girls stood in the middle of the room, singing slowly, offbeat, off-key, but in a harmony that felt strangely right. When Lily forgot a lyric, Lila took her hand and sang the next line. When Lila's pitch went too high, Lily softened hers to balance it. Their voices weren't perfect, but they were true. They carried the breath of their small kitchen, the roughness of their mother's hands, the warmth of nights without electricity but still bright with song. Hannah nodded, eyes glistening. "You know," she said quietly, "music isn't about proving anything. It's how you tell the world you're still here, still loving, no matter how hard life gets." The next morning, Lila arrived at school early. She stopped in front of the bulletin board. Someone had drawn a crooked microphone next to their names with a scribbled caption, "Comedy Act, don't miss it." Lila bit her lip, pulled an eraser from her pocket, and carefully rubbed out every mark. When she finished, her hands were trembling, but inside her, a strange new determination began to rise. During recess, Lily came up to her. "Did you erase it?" "Yes, and I won't let anyone write it again." She looked at her sister and said softly, "Even if they laugh, we'll still sing, because Mom will hear us." "Lily?" That night, Hannah came home late from work. As she stepped inside, she heard singing from the small bedroom. The girls stood by the window, moonlight spilling over their young faces. "You raise me up to walk on stormy seas." Hannah stood still, then slowly sat down on the floor, listening. Sometimes a mother doesn't need to say a word. It's enough just to hear her children believe in something good. Outside, the wind rustled through the pine trees. Inside, three voices, one of a mother, two of her daughters, blended into one. And in that moment, they were no longer the poor family of Haven Creek, but souls united by love and hope. None of them knew that just a few days later, the small stage at Haven Creek Elementary would become the place that changed their lives forever. Talent Day finally arrived. A bright Friday morning with a sky so clear over Haven Creek it looked like glass. The elementary school was decorated with balloons and hand-painted banners that read, in crooked letters, Let your talent shine. In a makeshift dressing room behind the stage, Lila and Lily Monroe stood quietly. The twins wore two simple white dresses their mother had sewn through the night. Fabric cut from an old curtain, the stitches uneven but full of care. Lily fumbled with the frayed laces on her shoes, while Lila adjusted her sister's hair and whispered, "Don't be nervous. I'll start the first note." Lily bit her lip. "What if they laugh?" Lila took her hand, squeezing it gently. "Then we'll just keep singing." "They won't understand, Lily. This song isn't for them." Out in the audience, Hannah Monroe sat among well-dressed parents. She wore a faded floral blouse and held a small bouquet of wildflowers she'd picked by the roadside. Her eyes never left the stage wings, where two small silhouettes waited for their turn. The show began with excitement. A group of kids danced to a TikTok routine, and the crowd cheered. A boy played the drums to roaring applause. A girl in a pink dress sang a pop song into a wireless mic. Her voice sharp and thin, but still met with enthusiastic clapping. Then the MC stepped forward, hesitating slightly as he read, "And next, a duet with no music track. Please welcome Lila and Lily Monroe." A wave of murmurs swept through the audience. New music? It's those twin girls again. This should be funny." The girls stepped onto the stage. The bright lights made Lily blink rapidly. The hall seemed twice as large as usual. The whispering hadn't stopped. Lila stood a little ahead, took a deep breath. Lily searched the crowd and found her mother's eyes. Hannah sat upright, her gaze filled with faith. That single look steadied Lily's breath. No music, no microphones. Only two small voices rising in the still air. "When I am down, and oh, my soul so weary." At first, a few students snickered. One parent frowned, thinking it was an unprepared act. But then Lily's voice joined in, soft, clear, tender as spring wind, and the room began to quiet. Lila's tone was stronger, a bit unpolished, the sound of a 12-year-old girl trying her best, yet filled with emotion. Lily's was lighter, drifting like smoke over a field of memory. When their voices met in the chorus, "You raise me up, so I can stand on mountains," it no longer sounded like children singing. It was the sound of gratitude, the voice of daughters calling to the mother who had carried them through every cold and weary day. Hannah placed a hand over her chest, feeling her heart pound. A tear slipped down, falling onto the bouquet in her lap. On stage, Lila caught her mother's gaze and sang louder, stronger, as if sending her voice straight to the heavens where their father might still be listening. When the first verse ended, there was no applause, not because the audience was bored, but because no one dared to break the sacred stillness spreading through the room. A restless boy in the front row stopped fidgeting. The music teacher, who had sighed when she first saw the twins' names on the list, now bowed her head. As the final line came, their voices joined, fragile but unwavering. "You raise me up to more than I can be." The last note drifted away like morning mist fading over a field. Then silence. 3 seconds, 5, 10, and then the first clap from Hannah's seat. Another followed. And another. Like drops of rain, the applause spread until the entire hall was on its feet. No one laughed anymore. No one spoke. Only the sound of hands clapping mingled with quiet sobs. Lila bowed. Lily gripped her sister's hand tightly. Neither spoke. They only looked down at their mother, who was crying. Not from sadness, but from a joy so pure it hurt to breathe. As the girls stepped off the stage, the MC held the microphone awkwardly and said softly, "Thank you, Lila and Lily Monroe. You've reminded us that music doesn't need a soundtrack, only a heart." Behind the curtain, a woman in a white coat with a name badge reading "Margaret Evans, City Youth Choir," stood still for a long moment. She whispered to her assistant, "Those voices, they weren't taught. They were born to touch people." And in the shimmering noonday light of Haven Creek, two little girls once mocked for being poor had silenced an entire school, not with fear but with feeling. They didn't yet know that this moment would open a brand new door in their lives. After the performance, the Haven Creek schoolyard still echoed with applause. On the rows of plastic chairs, a few parents lingered, sitting in silence as if reluctant to leave. And near the corner of the stage, the Monroe twins, Lila and Lily, sat side by side, their small hands still clasped tightly. Their faces were flushed, though it was unclear whether from excitement or the afternoon sun. Hannah Monroe approached, clutching a bunch of wildflowers, now crumpled from the emotions of the day. As she reached them, Lily looked up and asked softly, "Mom." They didn't laugh, right? Hannah knelt down, wrapping both girls in her arms. "No, sweetheart." They didn't laugh. They listened. Her voice trembled. "And so did I. I heard your father, in every note you sang." A gentle hand touched Hannah's shoulder. She turned. It was the woman in the white coat who had been standing near the stage wings earlier. "Excuse me, are you the mother of these girls?" Hannah stood and nodded. "Yes, I'm Hannah Monroe. I'm Margaret Evans, director of the Nashville City Youth Choir. I came today to see my niece perform, but after hearing your daughters sing, I couldn't leave without meeting you." Lila and Lily looked up, startled. Margaret smiled kindly. "You two have rare voices, and not just technically, but emotionally. Would you like to come to Nashville and audition? We're holding a special round of summer scholarship tryouts." Hannah froze for a moment. Nashville, over 150 miles away. She knew the costs of travel, lodging, and even proper clothes were far beyond her means. But when she saw the way her daughter's eyes lit up, wide, shimmering, full of hope, she couldn't bring herself to say no. I'm not sure we can manage it, but thank you. Thank you so much." Margaret slipped a business card into her hand. "Just come. Let me handle the rest." That evening the little house glowed again, not from electricity, but from joy. Hannah sat at the table watching her daughters chatter nonstop. "Mom, do you think Nashville is big?" "Probably as big as our whole town put together," Lila said, eyes bright with excitement. Lily smiled quietly. "I just want to sing our song. One more time." 3 days later, a long-distance bus rolled out of Haven Creek. In the back seat, the twins sat close together, holding the small notebook filled with their handwritten lyrics. Hannah sat beside them, tired but radiant. She carried little, just a small bag, a few dollars saved, and one fragile ticket of faith. As the bus rumbled down the highway, Lila turned to her sister. "Are you scared?" "No. It just feels like we're dreaming. If Dad could see us now, he'd be so proud." Lily nodded gently, gazing out the window at the rolling fields. "I think he's listening." By late afternoon, they arrived in Nashville. Margaret was waiting at the station, her smile warm as sunlight after rain. She led them to a small rehearsal studio where the city choir practiced. There were no stage lights, no audience, only a piano, a microphone, and a space filled with quiet anticipation. Lila stood in the middle of the room, her palms damp with sweat. Lily glanced at her sister and gave a reassuring nod. And then, just like that day at school, their two small voices rose again. "You raise me up to more than I can be." When the final note faded, Margaret didn't speak right away. She simply walked over and laid a hand on each girl's shoulder. "You didn't just sing," she said softly. "You reminded all of us, that there's still goodness in this world." Then she turned to Hannah, eyes glistening. "Mrs. Monroe, I'd like to offer them both full scholarships. I truly believe their music can touch many more hearts." Hannah covered her mouth, unable to speak through the wave of emotion. In that moment, the three of them embraced tightly, in a small, pine-scented room still echoing with the sound of a dream that had just come true. 2 years had passed since the audition in Nashville. From the poor little town of Haven Creek, Lila and Lily Monroe had become two of the youngest voices in the city youth choir, one of the most celebrated choirs in all of Tennessee. Life in this new world was far from easy. There were endless vocal warm-ups, strange sheets of music filled with symbols they'd never seen before, and nights when homesickness drove them to silent tears. Yet within those hardships, the twins learned to move in harmony, like two branches of the same river, sometimes turbulent, but always flowing toward one another. Back in Haven Creek, Hannah Monroe still worked at the laundry shop. Every month, she sent bus fare to her daughters. Whenever a letter arrived from Nashville, she would read it dozens of times, carefully pressing it between the pages of the old Bible on her nightstand. In one letter, Lila had written, "Mom, I sang at the Grand Auditorium today. There were hundreds of people and I didn't feel scared. I think I saw Dad in the lights." One autumn afternoon, Hannah received a formal invitation from the choir, We are honored to invite you to the autumn concert at Nashville City Hall. Your daughters will be performing the opening song." She stood frozen for a moment. One bus ticket, a modest dress, and a bunch of wildflowers. That was all she carried on the longest journey of her life. That evening at Nashville City Hall, the chandeliers sparkled like 1,000 tiny suns. The seats were filled with guests in elegant attire. The front rows crowded with familiar faces from the city's music world. Backstage, Lila and Lily stood hand in hand. They wore soft blue dresses, the color of Haven Creek's sky after rain. Lily whispered, "Do you think Mom's here yet?" Lila smiled, her eyes glistening. "I'm sure she is. Mom would come even if she had to walk all the way." The announcer's voice echoed through the hall. "To open tonight's concert, please welcome the twin voices of the City Youth Choir, Lila and Lily Monroe, performing You Raise Me Up." The lights dimmed, then focused on two small figures stepping into the glow. In the fourth row, Hannah sat upright, clutching her bouquet of wildflowers. Her heart raced. Her lips moved in a silent prayer. The music began. Just a soft piano line, yet it seemed to lift the entire room. Lila's voice came first, steady and deep. Then Lily's rose above it, brighter, clearer, like sunlight breaking through clouds. When their voices joined in the chorus, it felt as though the hall itself dissolved. "You raise me up, so I can stand on mountains." That song carried the scent of their old tin roof house, the image of their mother folding laundry, the fragrance of detergent and wildflowers drifting over Haven Creek. It wasn't just music, it was gratitude. It was a promise that they would live better, sing louder, so their mother could finally hold her head high with pride. When the last note faded, the hall fell into a deep, reverent silence. Then all at once the applause exploded, waves of sound crashing like the ocean. Some wiped away tears. Others stood and bowed. But the first person to rise, just as she had 2 years before, was Hannah Monroe. She didn't clap. She simply placed a hand over her heart, eyes glistening, lips trembling with the words, "Those are my girls." The twins bowed deeply. Through the soft haze of the stage lights, they saw her face, radiant, tear-streaked, full of love. Lily whispered, "We did it, didn't we, Lila?" Lila smiled, her voice breaking. "No, it's Mom who raised us up." Years later, after becoming lead singers of the City Youth Choir, they returned to Haven Creek to hold their very first free hometown concert. The stage was set on the grassy field behind their old elementary school, the place where everything began. And that evening, as the sun dipped behind the oaks and their voices rose once more in perfect harmony, the same people who had once laughed at them now stood quietly, tears slipping down their faces. No one could say exactly why it moved them so deeply. Perhaps because sometimes a single small song can lift an entire life, just as You Raise Me Up had lifted the Monroes beyond every hardship into the light. And so the story of the twin sisters Lila and Lily Monroe comes to a close. A journey of two small voices strong enough to move the world. From their humble wooden house in Haven Creek to the shining stage of Nashville, they have shown us that love, music, and faith can lift the human spirit beyond every limit. If this story touched you in any way, share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to help us preserve these beautiful moments in a fast-paced world. We'll see you again on the next journey.